Morning, folks. So, today we're going to talk about Bill C-230. That was a bill that would have, and I'll grab the phone in just a second to get the actual text. But basically, what Bill C-230 would have done is make it illegal to. Let me just get this very clearly. Here we are. It would have made it a criminal offense to intimidate a medical practitioner, nurse practitioner, pharmacist, or other healthcare professional into taking part directly or indirectly in the provision of MAID. Now, those of you who are in Canada probably already know what the MAID acronym stands for. MAID, Medical Assistance in Dying. Yeah, euthanasia, basically. Ideally voluntary, if you're not a veteran, apparently. But the idea was that it would have reinforced the Section 2 right under Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms for a person to, let me see here, let me see, where is that? You'll see in the link, by the way, that this is a story from the Catholic Register. Surprisingly, I'm using sources that come to hand. But basically, yeah, what this basically does is guarantee conscience rights protections. Section 2 of the Charter. Just one moment. So, let's hope I didn't actually. No, I didn't. Okay, good. Boomer moment. Sorry. So, Section 2, this is according to Wikipedia. Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms is the section of the Constitution of Canada that lists what the Charter calls fundamental freedoms, theoretically applying to everyone in Canada. Theoretically. Regardless of whether they are a citizen, an individual, or a corporation. These freedoms can be held against actions of all levels of government and are enforceable by the courts. Sure they are. These freedoms are freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of thought, freedom of belief, freedom of peaceful assembly, and freedom of association. Now, and I have to pause again, sorry. And as the story I was talking about, the link in the description, is dealing with the idea of conscience rights. There's a lot of road noise from the highway this morning, I apologize. But basically, freedom of, and this is according to the Center for Constitutional Studies here in Canada, the freedom of conscience is one of the fundamental freedoms protected by Section 2, which I just read. Thought, expression, etc. Belief probably being the most pertinent one here. Let me see. Freedom of conscience, yeah, one of the fundamental freedoms. The legal impact of this freedom. Ultimately, the freedom of conscience constitutionally recognizes, quote, the centrality of individual conscience and the inappropriateness of governmental intervention to constrain its manifestation. In fact, the Supreme Court has ruled that, quote, an emphasis on individual conscience and individual judgment lies at the heart of our democratic political tradition. The ability of each citizen to make free and informed decisions is the absolute prerequisite for the legitimacy, acceptability, and efficacy of our system of self-government. Now, under the bill that was introduced by Kelly Block, a Conservative MP, go figure, it would have made it criminal to force someone to participate in medically assisted medical assistance in dying. MAID. I'm just going to use the MAID acronym from here on out. When I say MAID, you guys can just hear euthanasia. Or assisted dying, whatever makes you comfortable. I don't think anyone should be comfortable with the idea of suicide. But I'll just read this one paragraph because it really tells you what kind of polarity is in Canada right now. Bill C-230 died a premature death at its second reading, October 5th, when nearly every Liberal, NDP, and Bloc Québécois MP were among the 208 votes against it. Most of the Conservatives, including leader Pierre Poilievre, were among the 115 that voted in favor of the bill. Now, I'm going to do a bit more of a deep dive on that later. Have a deeper read for myself, and I may bring it up again on Sunday. Possibly even tomorrow on Sultans. Which reminds me, like, share, subscribe, comment, check the various links. There's a subscribe star now. No, I haven't done any work on it. It's just a single tier, $5 a month. If you want to help me, I'd appreciate it. And because I haven't done any work on building tiers or anything, I will give my subscribe stars a first right of suggestion for topics, for comments, or for videos and things like that. But one of the things that I find most bothersome, troublesome about this is that, and you can see it's somewhat chilly in here. My nose is actually a little bit pink. Breath is still frosty. But the thing that I find most troubling about this is that a Conservative member put forward a bill that basically said, look, you can't make someone do something against their conscience. Okay. And the majority of our parliament voted against that. The majority of the people in charge in our government think that you should not have the right to say, no, I don't believe this is for me, and refuse to take part in something. What's the point of the charter again? Yeah. So, basically, if Trudeau decided to ramrod through a bill that said everyone over 60 needs to be put down, and the MPs voted it into law. Now, I am being a little bit, hyperbolic, but I was going to say parabolic, but that's not the right word. Would have been interesting if I was being parabolic. But the biggest issue I have with this is that were that hypothetical to come to pass, they could force the police to take part. They could force doctors to take part. And currently they can, with the power of the law. That's very much a reversal of the abortion debate, where people were told no, abortion is illegal, regardless of what they believed. Granted, I personally think abortion probably should be mostly illegal. But if, for example, someone is very, very ill and says, there's no medical treatment for this condition I have, this is degenerative, I'm reaching the point where I can't function, I'd like to be, helped to die with dignity. Now, that's a person, as far as I'm concerned, that's a person's right to decide. But obviously, they should be counseled against it. And in essence, that counts as a sort of conversion therapy, because you're changing someone's mind. And if you allow people to just willy-nilly decide to die, then you're really saying that the government does not believe in the sanctity of... Oh, wait, this is a government that thinks abortion should be legal for... Oh, yeah, forget I said anything. But if you're in misery, in constant agony, and, you know, all you can do is live in pain without any sort of quality of life. Now, understand, when I say you're living in pain, I don't mean that you have an ache that won't go away. I have arthritis. Right? I've been pretty rough on my body over the years. So I have arthritis, and I have a few other issues. But with just a bit of arthritis, I wouldn't go to a doctor and say, I don't like being in pain all the time, kill me. But there are some people who might. There likely are, well, there's certainly a rash of suicides in Canada as it is. And this time of year it's going to spike, because that's just the pattern. And I live in a town where we actually made national news for a rash of suicides a couple of years ago. And oddly enough, there's a lot of traffic past my shed this morning, and I don't know why. That's pretty uncommon. But we had a national news worthy crisis of suicides here in Grand Bank a few years ago, to the point that they brought in a bunch of different programs, which couldn't have worked because of the way they were designed. Privacy was essentially non-existent. And the same government that paid lip service to helping prevent suicide is now shooting down a measure that would have made it more difficult to acquire medical assistance in dying, medical assisted suicide. So obviously the hypocrisy is real. We all knew that anyway, it's Trudeau. And the idea that, well, what really bothers me about this is that it's like Canada wants to tear itself apart. We have the city-dwelling Central Canadians who, and to be honest, if I had to live my whole life in Toronto, I'd probably want to die too. But, and it's not a slight necessarily against Toronto, or anyone who lives in Toronto, but being surrounded constantly by human misery has to hurt. There's no gentler or more refined way to put it. It has to hurt your soul to have to spend all of your time completely divorced from nature, unable to trust, let alone speak to your neighbors. Well, I mean, you guys know my opinion on cities. Cities are cancer. But the whole thing for the last 2 years was all about, help out everybody around you and keep them healthy and all this sort of stuff. But then they basically make it easier for you to kill yourself. Does government not know the definition of mixed messaging? Yeah. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. The idea that human life can be so disregarded, that the sanctity of human life can be dismissed so easily. But then, this is the same government that, will discourage people from being counseled about sexuality in one direction and then encourage it in a potentially more harmful direction. Yeah. I don't know. Regardless, my feeling is that if you're going through a bad time, find someone to talk to. Find some sort of activity to get involved with that gets you closer to people. I know that for a lot of people, a lot of younger people, being around people can be somewhat terrifying, anxiety-inducing. I don't understand that. I can't say I share that experience, except in a very specific fashion, but even so, we're a social species. We're a species that needs to socialize. And if we don't, we end up sick. Take some species of dog. It's a good example. There are some breeds of dog. Sorry, I said species, I meant breeds. But there are some breeds of dog that, if they don't socialize at all, they essentially turn into monstrous little bastards. And either they're out of control or they're completely withdrawn. But not socializing dogs is a form of abuse, in my opinion. Or at least neglect. It's neglectful to not socialize a dog. If you get a dog and you don't spend time with it, you didn't want a dog, you wanted a puppy. You wanted something cute. You should have just bought a fucking plushie. Sorry, I get up on a high horse about dogs. But the idea that our government is now deciding that doctors, other people, no longer have the right of conscience, which is supposed to be protected in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and was the basis for me not getting vaccinated. I simply did not feel I needed it. I did not feel that it was, and I'm going to tiptoe around YouTube's guidelines a little bit here, and I think I'm far enough in because I'm at 19 minutes. But my conscience did not support me taking the vaccine for a bunch of different reasons. I didn't believe it was a necessary health measure. I didn't think it was preventative in any case. I'm being borne out by the facts that are recently coming out. It's nice to watch a Pfizer executive laugh at the idea that they tested for, transmission resistance before it was released. But all of these things were actions I took or didn't take based on my conscience, my own personal determination of what I did and did not need to do. I still sanitize my hands when I go into a shop. I'm glad they actually, a lot of shops still have sanitizer. That's great. Because you don't know who has been touching something from the time it was manufactured to the time you pick it up. That's very good. And that was the one thing that, when it was brought in, I saw almost no one using. How do you keep from getting sick? You keep your hands clean. That's one of the top ones. But, you know, if you can put on a magic piece of cloth and feel protected, I guess that works too. Anyway, folks, I'm way over 20 minutes. This is going to take forever to upload. But I don't understand why our government seems determined to make everyone in it look like an idiot who doesn't maintain a position from day to day. As I said earlier, the crisis here in Grand Bank made national news, instigated a bunch of programming, but then only really a few months, I think it's less than 2 years, certainly. It's certainly less than a year, or no. Anyway, it's only been a couple of years. And now they're knocking down a bill that says you can refuse to take part in assisted suicide if it's against your conscience. Well, fucking pick one. Anyway, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.